Let's pray.
Okay.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for bringing us together. I thank you for the gift of this opportunity to expand your kingdom. I thank you for Nathan and for the connection that you've made between us. Help us to use this time wisely to the benefit of you and your kingdom. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So, yeah, never been to England.
Okay.
We had somebody come in yesterday who her husband is the first British person ever to spacewalk.
Oh, nice.
Walk in space, and she knows she's met the Queen and spends time at the White House and stuff. And she came in and did high tea with us and gave us a long list of words not to say, half of which I've forgotten.
Yeah,
and
I got a list of those too.
Don't say pants in
public.
public.
Don't say pants.
Don't say fanny
Trousers.
ever. Never say fanny.
Don't give a backwards peace sign like we do in selfies like this. Yeah. That's middle finger. Don't do that.
Let me do this one.
That's okay. That's peace.
Well, like Churchill did that.
Right.
He started that trend.
V for victory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that, but you can't do this.
I got it.
Because that's like, and we went to a football match last year, and the opposing team's fans were doing this the whole time, and that was shooting a rod. So it's kind of
shooting a rod.
That's what it is. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
What else? Not say pants is the big one because
she said fanny's the worst thing you can say.
Yeah, I don't.
Who says that, right?
Nobody says it. Don't wear your fanny pack. You don't have to say it.
Right.
Yeah, fanny packs are out of
She
style
taught us about when we drink tea, you have to keep your saucer under it.
Yeah. Well, I've never had high tea, and this will be my 4th year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where we're going, and it'll be the same. The regional Tees Valley is not very proper. Okay. They probably won't do high tea. In fact, the first year I was there, they said when they say tea, when we're going to have tea,
it means dinner.
It means dinner.
That's what she said too.
Somehow along the century, they used to have a proper like 4 o'clock tea, 8 o'clock dinner, that kind of whole schedule. But somewhere along the line, it became one thing. And so they drink tea all day as we would drink coffee all day, or soda. So they drink tea all day long. The school that we go to is called St. Hildes, and it's actually a Church of England school.
Sure.
And one thing that's really cool they do is at like 10 o'clock in the morning there's a break. Like I don't know where the students are, but all the teachers go to this room and have tea.
Nice.
I don't know what the students are doing. I mean, I have no idea.
Are we allowed to ask?
No.
Would you go with them?
No, I go up there and drink tea, man. Yeah, they have tea and biscuits, which are cookies. Laid out every day, and they have a lady that her job is she just makes it.
Wow.
So there's coffee and teas and just a table lined up. You just go. It's great. My favorite part of the day.
She also told, of course, the houses are much smaller, and she told us mostly just not to act shocked because not to let the culture shock show.
Yeah,
which is something
there's really not a lot. I mean, because of BBC and Sherlock and all of that, it's kind of for a lot of people has melded the culture. I think a lot of the things that we've adapted a lot of their culture, and they've adapted a lot of ours. So it's not uncommon for you to think of being in a queue instead of being in a line. Right. Because you're in a queue on the internet, downloading or whatever. You kind of get that terminology. They eat differently than us. It is not a big deal, but the way they hold their fork and knife is different.
That's the proper way. Yeah.
They never scoop with their fork. We will cut and scoop with our fork. Right. They will always have a knife, and they'll put their fork down and they'll push the food onto their fork with their knife. It's not a big deal. You don't have to do that, but I mean, just little intricacies like that.
No, like I learned that that's outside of America. That's how they standardly eat, with a fork and knife. You cut the meat with your knife, and then you put it in your food immediately off the fork. It's in your left hand, so it's just I do that at home naturally.
We only cut with knives generally, but they'll have their fork here, and then they'll use their knife to kind of push peas on it. They don't scoop with a fork. It's kind of interesting.
He asked something that was interesting yesterday, which was about what you sleep under. Because apparently where Rhonda goes, sometimes they have duvets, which
that's what they use. Almost, they don't use a top sheet. Or the 3 houses I've stayed in, they don't use a top sheet.
Oh, okay.
It's a duvet, which is basically a sheet with stuff with a down comforter.
Is it usually pretty thick?
No.
No.
Usually it's more thin.
Okay.
Is it get cold? Are you getting? Do you get cold?
Well,
do you bring it? Do you bring your own bedding, or do you buy bedding?
No. I mean, I've never. The hospitality that the people that they will put you with is outstanding.
Really?
Don't worry about the food. Everyone's heard horror stories about English food, but actually the food we always eaten very well.
I made my own shepherd's pie, and it's one of my parents' favorite dishes. So
the best thing I've had there is called Toad in the Hole. It's
heard of that before.
It's a casserole basically with like pancake batter with sausages baked into it. And then you pour this. They put brown gravy on almost everything. Yeah. With the brown gravy on it, that was so tasty.
Oh yeah.
But you never gotten been frozen out at night or anything like that.
So I've been 3 times. The first time was a very modern house and everything was fine. Mm-hmm. The second time was a really old house. I stayed with the vicar, which is pastor. Do y'all call him vicars?
Yeah, sometimes there's a.
Well, the vicar is the priest. I stayed with him. He and his wife. Y'all have a lot of advantages, actually. You'll be a lot. We're Southern Baptists, so going to the Anglican church is a little different for us. But for y'all, you'll kind of get what they're doing in terminology and whatnot. But they had a really old parsonage that was probably over 100 years old. Had 9 bedrooms. Nice. So it was like if anyone came to town, that's where they went and stayed. That kind of era. But the house was drafty, and that week we were there was 0 degrees Celsius and minus negative degrees Celsius. So it was freezing cold in my room. I've never been in a cold room like that. But they gave me an electric blanket, so I was okay. And I would usually turn that off midway through the night when I got hot.
Wow.
So before we go, we might want to check what the weather could be like over there.
Well, yeah, last year it was very moderate. It would be like, how it was here last week where it's just kind of cold at night and in the morning and then kind of sunny in the afternoon. Last year that's how it was there.
Yeah, which is no
great weather. Yeah. The year before it was snowy and freezing. Snow is not going to be typical for March.
Right.
It's usually right now is when it's snowing there. So it won't be, the weather is not as big of a factor as you think. Mm-hmm. You'll need some sort of waterproof coat because it does rain a lot. Okay. Like a raincoat or like a Columbia jacket or something like that, and then I have found that one year it was so cold I went and bought a scarf. I figured out why people own scarves.
I have several scarves.
Yeah, I use that, and of course a hat that covers your ears.
I have a Doctor Who scarf that.
There you go. There you go. That'd be perfect. And I don't know what you guys are, or if y'all are gonna hike.
That's my plan.
Okay, you're going to hike Roseberry Topping. It'll be really cold up on top of there, so you'll want to kind of layer. Layers is the thing, because usually it's very windy up there.
Now, are the people you're staying with are usually not churched or not Christians? Are they usually Christians?
They're from the church. They're Christian.
Okay, because I was wondering that, because I was thinking if you're staying with people who aren't Christian, that would be, how much time are you spending...
No, everyone we've always stayed with are people from a local church.
From a local church. That's cool.
And that's the coolest part is, not the coolest part, but what,
cultural experience.
Yeah, and you become family with them.
Yeah.
Hospitality in England is a massive thing. That's an English thing, massive. They like that. Yeah. It's a massive thing because they treat you like you're their family. You'll eat almost all your meals with them, and they'll invite you into their home, and
how much opportunity you get to meet up? Will we get to meet up with each other? I mean, how often?
I don't know what y'all's schedule looks like, but for us, we're together all day long at the school.
Okay, yeah.
But then we split when we at night we'll split to go to homes for meals, and then the church we work with, they send us out at night to kids clubs and youth groups. And so we kind of, the only time you're not together for the most part is at the home, eating dinner and sleeping. And then we go to church Sunday and stuff like that.
Because we're not going to have a transportation around where we walk in a lot of places. That's one.
Okay. Well, that's fine. I mean, whoever you're staying with will more than likely know. Well, I can almost guarantee they'll know where the other houses are. And so they could probably tell you. Because what town are you going to?
Nunthorpe.
Never been there, but I think it's a smaller village.
Okay. He said on the flight we're coming in on from Washington D.C., there's like 57 people who are going to Tees Valley on the Washington D.C. to Manchester flight that we're going in on.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Us, Heritage Park, and y'all, and then probably Champion Forest Baptist Church, which is a mega church up in Klein, that school district. They always go over there, so they may be going over there on that too. But we won't see each other really when we're over there, just on the plane, and then come back Saturday. I guess we're all going to stay at the same hotel Saturday night.
Yeah,
which is a really nice hotel. That's a good experience there. So.
So what kind of, when you're going into the schools, I told them about dressing up. Which one question I had is, how do you keep your suit straight? I mean,
what do you mean?
I mean, like it gets wrinkled and stuff.
I only bring one suit coat and pants, trousers, if you will, and I bring a different shirt. Okay. Bring 3 or 4 shirts.
For women, he told me dresses, like skirts and a nice blouse will count just as well.
You could probably get away with dress pants as well.
Okay, I'll bring one pair and...
Have you watched Harry Potter?
Yes.
Okay, you know how the students dress in Harry Potter?
Oh, yeah.
Not the Rose, but later on when they start wearing trousers.
Oh, yeah.
That's how they dress in their schools.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's how you need to think about... I mean, their schools are a lot like that, the way they're set up and stuff. But I tell our girls that they either need to wear long skirts, longer than knee length skirts, or dress trousers, and then a blouse.
I'll have to go shopping for a few things because certain skirts I have won't be long enough.
All my girls do. They all go shopping before because they won't necessarily wear the same thing. So I mean, they probably would wear jeans to our church, into school, obviously, but.
And when you're walking around the town, you do wear jeans?
Walking around the town, you can dress normal. Yeah, like we're dressed now.
Good.
You wear your boots, they'll think that's neat. They won't wear boots very much. But.
So when you go into the schools, what age groups are you usually doing?
I've done primary school all the way up to high school. So their high schools are set up different than ours. Their schools are all generally smaller, at least in the areas that we're going to, because it's smaller. It's not. If we're going to London, it might be a different story. Mm-hmm. But we're going to the Tees Valley, which is kind of the English think of it as kind of a backwater.
The Santa Fe of England.
Yeah. The town we go to, Hartlepool, I compare it to Pasadena. It's a shipping town, and it's a manufacturing town, and it's on the coast. It's a Pasadena, Texas, or a LaPorte. That's what it's like. I mean, and so. That's.
Do they usually make a conscious decision of what age group they're making it with which age group? Is it more likely that they're going to send a teenager with younger kids? Or vice versa?
Yes and no. They've done both. I mean, generally we don't get paired up one-on-one anyway.
Right.
Mm-hmm. When we go into a classroom, we either are up front talking, or we're sitting in a small group of 4 or 5 students.
Okay.
Last year, the only time we've ever gotten paired up is we were in an elementary school, and we only go to elementary school one day. But we were in a reading class, and so we got paired up in the classroom by the teacher to read with a student. Mm-hmm. And so it was completely supervised. There was nothing awkward about it. For your adults that are going, you probably want to run a background check and have a printed off file of it, just to have it with you.
Easy.
And that way I did it the first year we went there, but last year they didn't ask about it.
You're over 18 too, so
anyone over 18, and then you probably want to have a letter from your church signed by the priest or whatever, saying these people are under the authority of are going with our church to just that kind of thing. That's just their schools are like ours. You can't just show up at a school,
Sure.
But
background checks.
Letter
from the priest. Okay.
What else? I mean. We're almost always in a secondary school, which is 6th grade through 11th grade. Mm-hmm. they're only required to go. They used to be only required to go through what we would call 10th grade, but now I think they have to go another year now. Yeah. And so after that 10th grade, they could go to college, which is like a 2-year program, or they could literally go be a plumber or be a welder or actually learn a trade.
Yeah.
Get an apprenticeship.
Yeah, I remember seeing something like that on this show called The Choir that was on the BBC, where he went to a school to start a choir, and you saw what their system was like through that show.
Yeah, a friend of a guy that I've met over there and I've become friends with, he was in Hartlepool, but he's from Southampton, which is almost to France, like on the coast, down that side. So he's just about as far away from home as he could be in England, and he's there to be a plumber, to learn how to be a plumber. And so that's what he was, and he got saved through one of these churches and came to faith in Christ through a church there. And so, that's what so more than likely you're going to be 6th to 10th grade, what we would call 6th to 10th grade. They'll call it year 7, year 8. There's different lingo. You'll learn all that quickly when you're in the school.
Got it.
So when we're going in and we're talking to these kids, are they? I mean, you said it's different situations, but how does the opportunity for them to ask us questions and us respond come up?
Different. Then again, it just depends on the teachers. Some teachers literally will just have us get at the front of the room, and we generally will get into, because we're bringing 10 people, right. So we'll probably get into 4. We'll probably split into 4 groups, 3 groups of 3, or I don't know, 2 groups of 3 and 2 groups of 2, and they'll send us out through different classes: art, PE, mostly religious education classes. And he's talked to you, I guess, about there's no such thing as separation of church and state there.
Right.
Whereas if a teacher were to start talking about the gospel in your school, they would probably get fired. Over there, it's part of the curriculum. Okay. Now, your religious education teachers may or may not be believers. In fact, one of the guys that actually I was very friendly with last year is an atheist, but he teaches RE in the school. Go figure. But it's England. Welcome to England. Charles Darwin's on the money. It's generally they'll split us up and they'll have us like stand up in front of the group and introduce ourselves, and then they'll give us some sort of a guided topic like baptism, or if it's closer. This is kind of close to Easter, so my thoughts are that the classes are going to be centered around Easter. And so they're going to ask you how you celebrate Easter, which for you will be probably pretty much exactly like you do. For us, it's always.
But a lot of the kids don't go to church at all anyway.
They will. Right? They will for Easter.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm. They will for Easter. A lot of them, yeah. Mm-hmm. They get 2 weeks off of school for Easter. It's a major holiday. Okay. So it's a big deal for them. They go to school year round, and then they get. I think they get like a month or 3 weeks off in the summer. But then they get 2 weeks off for Easter, and they just different kind of schedule. But generally, you're either up front and you're talking about some topic that they're on. One year they asked us, what do Christians do for leisure time? And it was like, okay, what do these weird Christians do in their free time? And so our kids were like, well, we like to listen to music, go to the movies, play video games, do sport, And they're like, oh, okay, because none of them would ever consider themselves a Christian, or very few of them would. So they asked the class, what do you think Christians do for leisure time? And they said, read the Bible, pray, And yeah, they probably do that, but they also do a lot of other things. So that was one thing we've talked about. You'll get lots of questions about the death penalty. They'll know you if you're from Texas. They'll ask you about the death penalty.
We talked about that.
They'll ask you about abortion. They'll ask you about gay marriage. They'll ask you about. One last year was about marriage, because they and in their class they had to perform a marriage ceremony. Yeah. And so one kid was the priest, and then there was a bride and a groom, and so that was really neat. And then we got to speak into what we thought marriage was all about.
That's cool.
I like that.
Yeah, and so basically what you're there to do, and what I tell my group is, you're there to share the truth about the subjects that they're talking about. We're to share the scriptures and the gospel. That's what we're there to do. We're going to make friends. You're going to be a novelty because you're Americans in the school, and people are going to want to sit by you and talk to you. So you're almost going to be a pseudo celebrity a little bit at the school, and imagine if a bunch of British kids showed up at your school. Mm-hmm. It'd be the same thing.
They made a big deal when we had like a German study abroad student in my senior year.
Right. Well, imagine a gaggle of them show up and they start eating lunch with you and come into your classes, and so it gets to be kind of a big deal. And so that's mainly what we do. One other thing that you probably want to be prepared for is if it's a Church of England school, they will do an opening assembly each day. They may have talked to you about this or not, but at our school they do an opening assembly each day, and it's a different year each day. It's year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And they gave us full reign of that opening to do whatever we wanted to do.
Wow.
So one year we brought a girl who played guitar, so we had her play some songs. And then we did some songs that like had motions to them, just to do, because it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's kind of dead.
How long does that last?
And that's the thing. It lasts like 15 minutes on the bell. So basically we'll get up, introduce ourselves, say who we are, and maybe share a quick testimony. Okay. I had a different person in our group share a testimony each time. And so sharing your testimony is a big thing. You'll do that a lot. You'll share about how you became a Christian, why you're a Christian.
You spend a lot of time on all that stuff.
Yeah, that's good. And that's what you're going to be.
It was weird because of baptism too, because our attitude to baptism is going to be the same as an Anglican church, and so we heard that and this I heard it at seminary too, is that a big problem there is a lot of people think that because they're baptized that's the limit of being a Christian. Right. And like what we were talking about was the general attitude of really the Episcopal Church in the United States is that if you're baptized, that's great. That's like someone giving you a car, but that doesn't make you a driver. Right. That you have to learn how to drive, and you have to actually drive the car. And so those kinds of analogies are the ones we've been working on and talking about.
We had a class on baptism, infant baptism versus believer's baptism. That was like the topic. And they put and we would believe in believer's baptism. We're Baptists after all.
And he's from a church that's more more along those lines.
But there's a lot of actually in the Anglican Church is a big
probably believers.
There's a big evangelical push in the Anglican Church right now. Actually, N.T. Wright and those guys have kind of led that push. So the pastor, the vicar that I work with, they've baptized people by submersion in their church.
Sure, and even the Episcopal Church in the United States will do that. I mean, it's not like baptism by immersion isn't allowed, or that adults don't get baptized. She was baptized when how old were you when you were 13 years old, and it was a free will choice. And stuff like it's just they don't. So there's and we've had several youth who were not baptized who became baptized.
Yeah, and you can just say this is what we believe, and that's where I would go from. But we had a lesson on that, and so they put one of us at each table, and the group had to decide, like the kids had to just interview us, and at the end of it, they had to decide which they believed in, infant baptism, and so the whole class voted for believer's baptism, which was kind of weird. And I thought, well, if we weren't in here, they probably wouldn't have done that, but it was
I can argue either side, both sides, both ways.
That's the viewpoint you have, and that's what you would share. And so we do that. Sometimes there's a few little activities they'll have, like after-school clubs. Depending on what work YFC's already got in these schools, we go to help them out too. And we've had a library club where literally we just hung out in the library after school and played Uno and stuff. Play computer games with kids.
You told me that a lot of their youth programs are just games. That's what they're used to.
Yeah, mostly. There won't be a whole lot of Bible study.
Is it possible for us, or would you have an opportunity to initiate one or to have one?
Yeah, you'd have to have that conversation with them. But I've preached. I preached on Sunday morning one time, and we always, even at the youth clubs, we'll share testimonies. Yeah. Which I think one of our students led a Bible study last year at one of those as well. So it just kind of depends on. At Hartlepool, there's 4 American missionaries that are working with YFC there that have been there since September. So they're doing work all year long, and we come in and just give them a major boost. Like last year, they had been working very hard, and when we got there, it was just like harvest time. Yeah. We did a big thing on Friday night, a testimony and talent night. And like 50 kids showed up at this church, which is that never happens in the churches there.
Wow.
And that was just, they were just, excited because, okay, they wanted us there in that school for that week. It really gives the school a lift. The kids, all these cities are kind of downtrodden and kind of the outlook on life is very poor.
Just having somebody who has faith in Jesus Christ coming in there.
And someone that's going to come there with energy and vitality. And why'd you come to Nunthorpe from Houston? Well, I came here to tell you about Christ.
Because God told me to.
Yeah. I feel like God led me here, and I came here to share the gospel with you. Oh. Yeah. I'm listening now.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I paid money. I could have been at the beach this week.
Yeah.
Say that because that'll mean a lot to them.
Yeah.
I could have been at Disney World this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife wasn't too happy about me spending a week over there. Let me tell you something.
Because we're doing this, me and my mom are not going to do any vacation before I go for the Peace Corps this year.
Yeah. And that's what our hope is to invite people into relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That's why we go as well.
That's what we're going to do. That's what we want to talk about. That's what we've been talking about.
And the key, one training that I do with my youth is, okay, we start talking about Justin Bieber. How do we direct our conversation to Christ?
Yeah, that's something we need to.
That's something y'all need to work on because they're going to be interested in what type of music you listen to and what television shows you watch because a lot of American TV's made it over there, and so.
So do you have strategies?
We just practice. We just practice it. And so, for instance, if I was going to talk about what television shows I watch, I would say, well, I watch. I don't know. Give me a show. What show?
Doctor Who.
Okay, Doctor Who. I'm watching Doctor Who. I love this show. It's all about this struggle between good and evil, and it's about someone who sacrifices themselves to save everybody else.
See, and that's really because we do a lot of we write. Write and do movie and television Bible studies, and so we could talk about the Bible studies we write.
And right now we're using a show called Battlestar Galactica, and it's very religious in nature, even though it's a sci-fi.
Every show has a bit of truth that points to the truth.
Yeah, right.
Harry Potter, he dies for a time and comes back and saves everyone.
Yeah,
Sound familiar?
Yeah, right.
Okay,
right. We do that all the time.
Exactly. These are taking the truth, capital T, truth of the gospel of the scriptures, and are breaking it into movies, and people will love it.
Part of that's the power of the Bible too.
Sure
the Bible is the story of life itself, and so there's no way to reflect life on any artistic level without reflecting part of the gospel.
So whether I'm talking about football or McDonald's or whatever it is, we'll just work it to try to point that conversation back to a spiritual truth, because you may only have one conversation with that kid all week. That's the reality. You may get another one, but you may not. And so, and we also work that because that's also a skill that our kids, every time they come back thinking, I can do this in my own school every single time. And so, in
some ways, when you talk about that stuff, it feels like our youth groups have kind of been working on this kind of stuff the whole time. We got
this is just a part of being an evangelist or doing evangelism. It's the same. You just have an open invitation here, and it's a little bit easier. That's the reality. Yeah. In some ways, it's easier. In some ways, the soil is very dry there.
Yeah.
And so
you think you're the one who told me that you said somebody who's gone to Uganda and gone to Tees Valley and said that the trips were that Tees Valley was as spiritually impoverished as Uganda was economically impoverished.
Yeah.
You told me someone who who had that.
I was standing up to preach at a Friday night event the first year we went, and there was over 100 kids there. So the gravity of it just hit me. It's like most of these have never even considered a relationship with Christ. And I just felt like spiritually oppressed. I really did. For the first time, I felt like, man, there's something that's battling against what we're trying to do here. And I had to get one of my leaders, like, we need to stop and pray right now, because and out of that, 3 girls trusted Christ that night. I'll never forget that. But it was incredible. But they don't see that kind of thing all the time.
Because this is we have our priests and a lot of people who are really behind what we're doing. We have some people at this church who are really against what we're doing. Right. That's the truth. And one of the things, there's different reasons. One reason is people are like, well, why are we going all the way to England to do something that we could do here?
Right.
And I guess there's some truth in that, but it really is. I told people you can also help poor people here. You help poor people in Mexico. When you go to Mexico, it's a different kind of poverty. Just like the spiritual impoverishment here is people can't imagine is different than the kind you're going to find in England.
Well, I mean, I would say if you look to the Great Commission,
all corners,
Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and all corners of the earth, and so. Yeah, we're already doing that here. We have an established church here that's already doing those things with a youth ministry that most churches in England would kill to have something like that.
Yeah,
so
it's going good right here, right now.
Yeah. So I mean,
do you get home too and sometimes feel like that, like how lucky we are to be in a?
I know it, but our kids, because most of them have been in church all their life, and so when they get home, they're like, I've taken all this for granted.
Because I remember going to Mexico anyways, where it was a different kind of poverty, and doing that and coming back and going, God, we're so lucky to live in this country. Just what an awesome country to live in.
Trying to think. What other question? You guys have any questions?
I was wondering, like, how much bonding time do you have with your families? Is it only dinner and your spare time when you're not with everyone else?
Well, generally, you get, school lets out at 3-something in the afternoon.
Really?
And then, it's kind of the same hours as our school, 8 to 3 kind of thing. And so from 3 to, depending on if you have an activity that night, 3 to 6, 7, you have a lot of time. And then, they'll pick you up, you'll go to their house on Saturday and get to know them. And Sunday you'll go to church with them. And then you have all day Sunday generally to bond with them and those meal times are, a lot of times in our country, mealtime is okay, everybody grab the food as they can. At least while we're there, that's not how it works there. They all sit down at a table together and have long discussions at dinner.
I like that kind of.
Yeah.
We try to do that when it's us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think it's a value in England that has slipped away in America a little bit. All the families we stayed at never once eaten at McDonald's with them. Not once. In fact, I don't think I've ever eaten in a restaurant with them at all. It's always been a home-cooked meal.
Wow.
Yeah. And so...
You eat lunch with
we eat lunch at the school, and we eat lunch in the cafeteria with the students. And that's a really cool time.
Yeah.
And I always tell our students, don't clump up. Spread out and go amongst them. It's uncomfortable at first. It really is. It's uncomfortable for me. But that's what you're there for. So I tell them...
That's the stretching. That's what, there's no reason to go if you're not going to do that.
You have to rely on the Spirit, man, because it's out of your comfort zone. So go plop down, and your proximity to NASA will help you out a lot. Everybody will be really interested in that. You have no idea how interested in that they are.
I know. I have some idea because I have friends from other countries who visit and are freaked out by it.
We take it. I live here in Nassau Bay, so I see the jets and the stuff every day, right? But you see, then you see people driving down the street, hanging out of their car, taking pictures. So you're like, this is a big deal.
Yeah. That's cool.
One thing that we do also that helps is we create a PowerPoint about, each person creates their own PowerPoint, like 2 or 3 slides, and with pictures of your family, the house you live in, activities that you're in, just 2 or 3 slides and a few pictures each. Because sometimes it helps, they're real interested in America. They all love America over there. There's nobody there that hates America.
Just about
yourself. Like a picture of you and your wife, and any dogs or cats you would have, or you like to go to do the comic book stuff, like pictures of that. Just things that you're interested in to be transparent with them, so they know you a little bit, and then they're more likely to hear what else you have to say.
Y'all are all now assigned to do that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I like having homework, so
and bring a little flash drive. Their classrooms are all very modern. They'll all have projectors, and a lot of, in the school we go to, because it's funded by the Church of England, it's awesome. I've never seen a school as technologically